Word to my dead. If I said that there would be no Ice Spice, if there was no DTHANG, y'all would probably think I'm smoking crack. But I'ma stand on that. Reality though, DTHANG is a Bronx drill pioneer. I go as far as saying him and his cousin turned op K-Flug are the founding fathers of the Bronx drill sound. That's why it's crazy to see today how far he's fallen off.
Having committed the offense of possession of a firearm or weapon with ammunition by a convicted felon, which is a second-degree felony. I've appointed the public defender's office to represent you.
There was a part where he had top 3 in the city motion, getting over 50 million views on a YouTube video. Obviously, his very public beef with K-Flug played a huge role in him getting more motion, but the way bro's career went down from blowing up and getting signed by hitmaker French Montana to now being on a dusty courtroom footage in Miami-Dade County is a wild story in itself. So today, we gotta talk about the crazy downfall of DTHANG right now, but before we do, gang, I'm gonna need to do something for me. Like, comment, subscribe, hit up that notification bell so whenever I post, y'all tune in right away, and go tap in with the merch that we just dropped. Some new live shit, man. Make sure you tap in, link in the description, and make sure you join a membership if you want to get your song or product featured in this video as an ad, man. Tap in. So let's get into this. During the pandemic, while everyone was inside trying to find the newest artists coming up, DTHANG would blow up rapping with his homies from the RPT project. He would drop the song Caution in the early days of the Bronx drill scene and go from being relatively unknown to making a whole new genre. However, fast forward to late 2020, his career would meet his first major roadblock when he would be locked up for controlled substances and gun charges. He would get out in 2021, and by that time, artists like K-Flug and B-Love had started really blowing up. He would capitalize and drop his biggest hits like Talk Backs with Tita and Bando, which would get over 50 million views, being that group's biggest hit. That song would go crazy since it was literally a K-Flug diss and inspired a back and forth and instantly propelled the scene into a spotlight. However, this is where things would start to go wrong. Right after his biggest hit, he would get caught up with another gun charge and get a jail sentence that would prevent him from riding the success right away. He would get out 2 weeks later and immediately in November that year get right back in after getting another gun charge, this time getting locked up without bond on Rikers Island for mad long. Then, to make matters even worse, he would be named in a gang takedown indictment against his clique RPT.
Takedown in the Bronx. The suspects accused of numerous shootings and bragging about the violence in what's called drill rap. Eyewitness News reporter Marcus Solis with that story.
There's just a group of them all the time and the music blasting and everybody's jumping around. It's crazy.
But police say the lyrics to these drill rap songs were used to incite violence, specifically the shooting of rivals. Today, the Bronx District Attorney and NYPD announced the arrest of 23 members of RPT, a Bloods-affiliated gang linked to over a half dozen shootings. The violence bragged about on social media. Even a pigeon was beaten to death during a live stream when a target number of viewers was reached.
This gang would shoot at their ops in the vicinity of schools, MTA buses, even in close proximity to Times Square. No regard for anyone in the area.
The news was trying to say they live streamed beating pigeons to death. I think that was just like one of the worst crimes out of all that shit. And just like every other highly incriminating these things did, they made sure to film it on 4K apparently and broadcast it to the entire city like a campaign ad. But if you've been following this channel for a minute, then you know back in 2022 when we initially see this news, we were like, bruh's cooked and this was the end of his career. That combined with K-Flug getting arrested for a murder or self-defense charge depending on how you look at it, left the Bronx drill scene in shambles. Not a lot of new artists were coming out with the same type of motion as either of those two and became a relatively regional type sound. Ice Spice would blow up though in between this time, but it didn't really shed a light on the other Bronx drill artists. Her sound might have been similar, but the overall vibe and imagery were a lot different than the crash out IG lives that K-Flug and DTHANG would do. The demand for Bronx drill went down and neither of the two biggest artists were there to try to save it. But randomly at the end of 2023, news came out that DTHANG would get a second chance and would be soon released on conditional bond in early 2024. People were pretty hype at first, but he would be welcomed back home by a starving scene that had been down bad after the arrest of K-Flug. He would also though have a good press strategy, making videos and then getting featured on DJ Academic's Off the Record podcast, seemingly in a better place than how he was before he went in and was promising to drop new music. His first release, last day in would get recognition, and people believed that he was really on his way to going up heavy. Obviously though, he wasn't getting the same amount of motion that he had in 2021, and he definitely still though had a sizable fan base for someone who had just spent mad years in jail and was dropping consistently. However, tragedy would strike in July 2024 when he would drop the worst song I've ever heard, coming out of New York. The Cha Cha Slide song with French Montana and Shaw G's. I was hearing rumors that he had got signed by French, so I really couldn't believe that that song with him, French, and Shaw G's would be straight fucking garbage. I don't know how, I don't know why they released it, but they did, and it would go out super sad. Bruh, it would literally have him fighting trash allegations for the rest of his career. It was so bad. The next song he would drop would either flop, or people would just call them trash, or just already think they were trash before they would even come out because of how bad that song was. He would then drop his debut album, which would be years after his initial buzz, pretty much leaving him cooked. The project got a mid response, and people were not too excited, and nothing really had been exciting them in the drill scene. So it seems like either people lost interest or started focusing on other artists coming up, or just tuned out of Bronx drill altogether. He would then go out super sad when a New York YouTuber would show paperwork showing he had kind of some way snitched on the previous gun charges that he had with Bando. He never named his homie, but he basically implicated him by admitting to having a gun at one point and having knowledge of its whereabouts, which extra had him looking crazy to the Bronx drill scene. This leads us to today, where he's dropping consistently the last year or so, but hit a substantial roadblock when he was arrested in Miami-Dade County yet again for a gun charge, this time of possession of a firearm by a felon, which is looking like he's going to be sitting with a substantial amount of jail time.
Taking a look at the arrest affidavit to determine your bond status. How long you been in Dade County?
Since yesterday, like a day.
And so you're from New York?
Yeah.
Okay. Standard bond $7,500.
Judge, the state's requesting an increased bond in that the defendant has no local ties. According to the arrest affidavit, the defendant has a violent criminal past, including a felony conviction from New York City. I'm looking at his FCIC, NCICs. It looks like he was released from prison last year, and that crime also involves
It's
a
honestly
firearm.
crazy how he and his cousin both went out super sad. You know, DTHANG was honestly a promising person, especially coming out of jail, getting out of Rikers that one like little month there. People had so much hope in him and the scene that it was gonna come back, and then look at what happened, bro. It went out super sad. It's crazy how shit can really switch up. You could literally be on top of the scene one day, and then the whole couple years later you could be down bad in jail on some dusty ass fucking camera footage, literally looking crazy, bruh. And then we look at K-Flock, man, it's honestly a crazy situation. I mean, I'm not really surprised looking at the whole scene, especially the way they were acting, crashing out on camera and stuff like that. So, I mean, it's only something that you would kind of expect, but you would think that they could have at least capitalized on it more than this, man. But hey, let me know in the comments what y'all think about that shit, man. Real say shit, you already know what's going on. Like, comment, subscribe, peace.